Hello children, this is Miss Tanushree and today I will be explaining the second part of chapter 1, that is mapping landforms through contours, settlements and its classification. If we look at the topographic maps, it may appear confusing as they contain lot of information and they have their own language and symbols to represent each relief features. But cartographers use various types of symbols to represent the natural landforms of the Earth's surface. Now, with the help of contour lines and their patterns, we will study about the different types of landforms represented on topographical maps. First one is the slopes. What are slopes? Slopes are the rate of the rise or fall of the ground level, and it can be determined by studying the contour lines on a map. Closer the contour lines, the steeper the slope. The farther apart the contour lines, the gentler the slope. It means if the contour lines are close together, it represents a steep slope, whereas if the contour lines are far apart, it represents a gentle slope. There are two main types of slopes. They are gentle slope and steep slope. Now, what do you mean by gentle and steep slope? Gentle slopes are represented by contour lines showing a uniform gentle slope and they are evenly spaced and wide apart. Whereas steep slopes, in this case, contour lines showing a uniform steep slope are evenly spaced but close together. This is very clear from this diagram. Here you can see contours are spaced further apart, which represents a gentle slope. Whereas contours that are close together, they represent steep slope. Now, the next type of landform is the hill. What do you mean by hill? It is an area of high ground. When you are located on the hilltop, the ground slopes down in all directions. Maps will show a hill with regular closed contour line, or it can be said to be as a series of concentric closed contour lines. Now, what is the meaning of the term concentric? It means circles having a common center, and the inside of the smallest closed circle is the hilltop. More contour lines represents the hill is of greater height. Next is the plateaus. Plateaus are broad highlands that rise abruptly from the surrounding land. They have level, almost a flat top. On topo sheets, they are shown by evenly spaced contour lines that surrounds an area with no lines or hardly any lines. That signifies that the top is flat. Next one is ridge. What is ridge? It is a narrow elongated range of hills forming a continuous elevated crest for a distance. Now, what is crest? That is the anticlines or the upfolds. The crest of the ridge is sharp with number of peaks interspersed with depressions. The slopes of the ridge are usually steep-sided. The contour lines of a ridge are elongated or oval shape and they are closely spaced. Next topic is saddle. A saddle is a deep or low point between two areas of higher ground. Now, if you were in a saddle, there would be a high ground in two opposite directions and lower ground in the other two opposite directions. Maps will show a saddle with the contour lines forming an hourglass or a figure 8 shaped feature. The depression of a saddle is broad and low, resembling the saddle on a horseback. Next topic is passes. Now, what are passes? Passes are low points or openings between two peaks in a range of mountains and hills. They can be at higher elevations as well and provide a passage or a way across the mountain. They are indicated on contour maps as an empty space between two closed contour lines that represents peaks. Next topic is col. What it refers? It refers to the lowest point on a mountain ridge between two peaks. It may also be called a notch or a gap. A col is narrow and steep-sided, whereas saddle is slightly broader gap. Now, what is gap? A gap is a low area between two higher elevating land masses, like for example mountains. Gaps are very similar to passes, but they are more rugged and it is difficult to navigate. Now, what is the meaning of rugged? Means it has broken, rocky as well as uneven surface. The South Col, for example, is the gap between Mount Everest and Lhotse, the highest and fourth largest mountain peaks in the world. Our next topic of explanation is the settlements. Now, what is the meaning of this term settlement? Settlements are places where people build houses to live in. And you know, the types of houses, they vary in size from single dwelling settlements to major cities where millions of people live. Now, these settlements can either be temporary or permanent. What is the basic difference between temporary settlement and permanent settlement? Temporary settlements are the settlements which are occupied for a short period, whereas permanent settlements are those which are occupied for a long period of time. The next topic is the classification of settlements. Settlements are classified under two broad heads: rural settlement and urban settlement. First one is the rural settlement. The settlement which is mainly dependent on primary activities. Now, what comes under primary activities? It includes agriculture, animal husbandry, fishing, etc. All falls into the rural settlement. Now, the different relief features that are shown in this rural settlement, they are water supply, fertile lands, building materials, etc. On the basis of forms or patterns, these are further subdivided into four categories. They are dispersed settlement, compact or nucleated settlement, linear settlement, and radial settlement. Let's focus in these four types of categories of rural settlement. The first one is dispersed settlement. Now, in these kind of settlement, houses are spaced far apart. you can see from this figure, it's quite clear that the houses are spread far apart, means they are at a distance, and they are often interspersed with fields. However, places like the market, where the public requires to participate almost daily, are centralized. Next one is the compact or nucleated settlement. For this kind of settlement, houses are built very close to each other. For instance, plain fertile land regions have this type of settlement, that is compact or nucleated settlements. Next is the linear settlement. These kind of settlements are basically constructed along a road, railway line, river, canal edge of a valley, or along a levee. The last one is the radial settlement. Now in this settlement, houses are constructed along the streets which spread out from a central point in all directions. These are known as radial settlements. The last category of settlement is the urban settlement. What are these? These are quite bigger than the rural settlements. And here people are mostly engaged in secondary or tertiary activities such as manufacturing, trading and service sectors. The infrastructure in this kind of settlement includes concrete buildings, bridges, roads and a well-developed transport system. With this, I come to the end of part 2 of chapter 1.